Hey, welcome everybody. Simon Rosenberg from Hopium Chronicles. This is our seventh in our series of candidate discussions and interviews with the intrepid candidates who are most likely to flip House seats and win the House back for us this November. We were fortunate to have Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries joined us just this week to give a report on how things are going. And obviously, there's just a lot of good feeling in the family right now. It's been a remarkable couple of weeks in our politics. And with us today is Rudy Salas, who's running in a very competitive district in the Central Valley of California. Rudy, welcome. Thank you for being with us today.
Yep. Thank you, Simon. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on, and the Hopium community. You guys have been fantastic. But yeah, we're trying to work really hard in flipping this seat.
Well, listen, just tell us about the race. I mean, give us a little background on you. Tell us about the district. How's it going? Are you having fun? You look like you're smiling, which is important. Can be a grind, as you know, you've done this before. And so just give us an update on the race and how things are going.
Yeah, no, the race is going fantastic. You know what kind of re-energizes me is always talking to people and talking to people at the doors, or whether it's on phones or the grocery store or Costco. For some reason, everybody comes up to me at Costco. But that's kind of the re-energizing thing, because they're like, Rudy, you've helped us out, you've done all these things, and that kind of keeps me motivated as we look at now less than 100 days to the election. But real quick, Rudy Salas, California 22. It's a Central Valley. It's kind of, I tell people, like an hour and a half, 2 hours north of LA. So kind of Bakersfield to kind of the Fresno area, 99 to the I-5, everything in between. It's like the central part of California. So I like to say we're a lot of small towns and big hearts. So that's kind of the area I represent.
And tell us a little bit about you, Rudy. I mean, why did you take this moment to go crazy and run for Congress? And because it is always a bigger bear than people. Everyone knows how hard this is, right? But when you actually go do it, it's an incredible amount of work, and it's hard work. But by all accounts, you're doing a great job. And so give us an update on your background and a little bit about the race itself today.
So this district, California 22, is like the home of Cesar Chavez, the UFW, Dolores Huerta, right? Delano, Bakersfield, that type of area, all the way up into Avenal. But real quick, my background, just born and raised in the district. I tell people I'm a local kid, right? All public schools. My dad actually ran a crew out in the fields. And so that's what I did as a kid. I would be out there with my dad and my uncles and family. And I did that on the weekends, did that during spring break, summer break, any break in between, just kind of what we did growing up. Ended up graduating from a public school, was the only one from high school to go to UCLA. Double majored political science and history. As much as they wanted, my parents wanted to help me, they just weren't in a position to do it. So I kind of had to work my way through. So hard work is not a new thing for me. I've been doing it since I've been a kid, out working the crews with my dad out in the field. So worked at the White House for a little bit, did financial work, came back home, had some offers to stay on the Hill and to work at some law firms in LA, but decided to come back home, worked at the local Cal State, getting kids into college. I was upward bound counselor, migrant scholars program, upward bound, and camp. And so I did that, and then connected with my local state senator. I always told people, if you looked, anytime he was on camera, you looked to the guy on his right, like 9 times out of 10, that was me holding all the binders and writing all the memos. Definitely like been doing this work. And then I had a chance to run for city council where I grew up. And I grew up by the fairgrounds, and fairgrounds anywhere in California is usually a little bit tougher side of town. So there was an opportunity to run. I ran. Multiple candidates, 7 candidates in the race. And people said, Rudy, you're too young. Rudy, there's never been a Latino council member. What makes you think you're going to do it? And I'm like, look, this is home. I just want to make a difference. I want to do something for the area. And so I ran, ended up winning by double digits, ended up becoming the first Latino Bakersfield City Council member in 112 years. And I say that because now we have an opportunity to do that in Congress. If you can believe it or not, in California, in the central part, there's never been a Latino Congress member all the way from Sacramento to the Grapevine, which is like, over 300 miles. And so you're just like, wow. And you look at the seat, it's the most Latino seat in California. Like I said, it's the home of the UFW, Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta type movement. And so we think it's about time. But my last 10 years in the state legislature, I tell people I focus on families, I focus on people, right? I'm the type of guy that's not going to stand on the soapbox so much as I'm going to roll up my sleeves and get something done. So people are used to seeing me at, the grocery store, but backpack drives for kids, free tax preparation workshops. I've had a couple of communities where their water wells went down, and so nobody in the community has safe drinking water. So I'm out there actually handing out safe drinking water, making sure people are fed, doing emergency showers, that type of stuff. So people constantly see me out there. And that's the type of district it is. I tell people we help each other, right? And that's what's great about America. That's what's great about our communities, is that when we do see somebody in need, we roll up our sleeves and get something done.
And how's it going? I mean, you've raised a lot of money. I mean, and talk a little bit about the race itself, your sense of how things are going and how it's changed with,
Mhm.
obviously with the former senator from California now at the top of the ticket.
Yeah, no, the race is going fantastic. And the demographics in this after redistricting make this a very competitive, one of the most winnable seats in the country. It's the most Democratic seat in California, held by a Republican. So the opportunity to flip this is real. It's there. It's all about voter turnout for me now. Turnout, turnout, turnout. I tell people is the biggest thing. People out in the community, our grassroots funders have been fantastic, because I always tell people there's a lot of ways to get involved in these races. You could, write a check, donate online, or you can knock on a door, do a phone bank, or write a postcard. And we have all of those things happening, which is fantastic. So, I was talking to a volunteer the other day, and they were telling me like, yeah, I got engaged because I know that, and this is a volunteer that's not even that lives in the district, but it's like, it's so important for even my family that lives somewhere else. But it's so important for families across the entire country, because we know that whoever holds that gavel, if it's Hakeem Jeffries, right, then we know that working families are going to be taken care of. And so I take that to heart. I work really hard every single day, because we know this is a difference maker, and this is one of the seats that's going to make that difference. Um, I ran last cycle. We came up just a
Right.
smidgen short, because we had a historically low turnout in this district. It was 34%, right? And California and New York kind of performed a little bit different than what we're used to. But I can tell you, for this cycle, we've been at the door since last year. We've done over 500,000 phone calls into the district. I mean, we are pounding the pavement. We are getting the work done. And I think you're starting to see that even with the fundraising numbers, Simon, that you're talking about. We've outraised the incumbent twofold in Q2 and in Q1. And so, people are jumping on board, because they're like, look, this is a real opportunity. There's a real difference. I know we say it all the time. This is the most important election ever. But I can tell you, people feel it in their bones, right? I was talking to someone on the phone, and she's going to have her 88th birthday, and she was saying, she's like, I lived through a lot of things, and but I can tell you that no time in history have I felt as scared as I do right now. And that's why she was donating, and that's why she was going to get involved. And so I think a lot of people are starting to feel like, look, this is the moment, right? This is going to be a moment in history that is going to be studied for decades, if not centuries. And people are going to be like, hey, what did you do? And so I tell folks, well, you could say you helped this guy out in the Central Valley actually flip a seat and make a difference for the entire country, right? So in this moment, what are you doing? And I tell people, I was like, I'm a simple guy. I was like, you know what? Do more, worry less, and let's just go with that.
That's one of our core slogans at Hopium, right? Is do more, worry less. And Gavin Newsom has borrowed it in his
Oh,
public talks.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. And so Gavin's a good friend, and I've known the vice president for 20 years. She's a
Mhm.
good friend. How do you think her becoming the candidate has affected the race in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, Harris entering has definitely reinvigorated everybody up and down. We've seen it in the fundraising numbers, but we've seen it also with the volunteers. I launched a canvas a couple days ago before coming out here, and people were just excited, right? They're ready to talk about it. And I saw polling that showed, Biden was at 33% with young voters, and Harris enters with 60% plus. And so I think people are just motivated, and it's up to us to capture all of that energy and translate it into ground, into the enthusiasm, and really into voter turnout.
And talk about the issues you think that when you go door to door and you talk to voters,
Mhm.
I mean, what's on people's mind? What's coming up? What are they volunteering in when you're talking to them?
Yeah, it's the biggest issues that come up is like, how are you making a difference? Right. And so the three issues that come up all the time are costs, healthcare, and choice. Right. And so depending on who we're talking to, I always tell, my volunteers or when I'm at the door, first thing to do is to listen, right? And then respond to what people are actually talking about. Right. And then it's education. Right. So for us, like when we talk about costs, we talk about how when I was in the legislature, like I've voted to actually lower the price of medicine, right? I've brought $10 million for for a cancer treatment center, right? We're building pedestrian bridges so that kids aren't having to dodge like UPS and FedEx trucks across a highway to get to school. We point to a lot of local projects, but on costs, I'm like, look, this is what Rudy's doing, and then this is what Valadeo, the incumbent's doing. Like he voted against capping the price of insulin at $35 for seniors, knowing that we have one of the worst diabetic rates, not just in the state, but across the entire country. And then I say, for me, I want to get to Congress and I want to make sure that that cap is for everybody, not just seniors, because we know it affects everybody,
Yeah.
right? David Valadeo voted to increase taxes for every homeowner in California. We know how hard it is to own a home just on its own, and like he's making it more expensive. So what we do is we go through the facts and we start talking to them about things, right? David Valadeo is also a co-sponsor of the Conception Act, right? So even if a woman's been raped or if the life of the mother is in jeopardy and she's got two or three other kids that she's caring for at home and she's going to leave them an orphan, like Valadeo says, like no exceptions at all, right? And we believe that a woman should have that choice. It should always be between a woman, her doctor, and within her faith. And so we point out the differences, and when we listen to people, those are the types of things that come up on the phones and at the doors.
Well, the other thing that's come to light in the last few weeks as we've gotten to learn more about Project 2025, which is the agenda of the Republican Party and the Trump campaign, is that plan, their fiscal plan, is going to raise taxes on middle class people in your district and cut taxes on wealthy people who probably live mostly outside your district, right? And so, in addition to all those stories that you have about him and what he's voted on, we need to really wrap this, the fiscal part, the tax part of the Project 2025 around their neck, because it's shocking. It's similar, by the way, to what happened with Trump's tax plan in 2017 and 2018, where almost all the benefits went to wealthy people, very little went to middle class people. And it's who they are, and it's what their politics are about. We're fighting for everybody; they're fighting for an elite few, and it manifested. It's now manifest in their tax strategy. I'm a little shocked with how naked it all is, right? They're not even trying to hide it anymore. I mean, in 2017, they threw some crumbs to, middle class folks. They're not even trying to do that anymore. And so, just to add to your litany, the facts when you go to the door, right? Valadeo's party wants to raise your taxes, and that's now a fact, right? It wasn't a fact a month ago, but it
Now
is.
they've spelled it out and
Yep.
in Project 2025, and so people can read it for themselves. And I always find that when we give people the information and they could see it for themselves, and it's like, look, don't take my word for it. They're actually saying it.
Well, it sounds, what's so important about what you just told us is that, there was this disappointing turnout in California and New York in 2022. I mean, we had a very good election through most of the battlegrounds of the country. And what I'm excited about now is that I think with the vice president being at the top of the ticket, Democrats are fired up. We have the tools to deal with your point about the low turnout this time, and obviously the DCCC and the leader is very focused on this. And I'm very optimistic. I mean, I've been interviewing some of your colleagues, and people really do have said the same thing you're saying, which is it's been a huge uptick in people showing up at canvases and in money and just interest and engagement. And in a race like yours, that's going to make all the difference in the world, And so it's great to hear. Any other final thoughts? I mean, it sounds like you think that, if you just put your head down, keep doing the work, you've got a great shot at flipping this thing. Valdeo's been hard to beat, as you know, right? I mean, he's
Yeah.
withstood a lot of challenges, but you think this time it's going to be different.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the energy is there, especially like you said, with the change at the top of the ticket. I mean, love what everything by, Biden brought us the infrastructure, the Inflation Reduction Act, capping the price of insulin at $35. There's some great wins there, but the energy is real. It's there. I think as long as we keep doing what we need to do, then we could put this across the finish line. But it takes all of us to get there. This is a seat that by the numbers looks great for us to really pick up, but we got to get after them. And what we've seen is the Republicans on the other side and with the super PACs is they'll flood this district with a ton of money because they want to confuse people so much. I tell people it's a new form of voter suppression is they flood so much money and say, well, I don't know, and I'm not going to vote because there's just so much stuff out there. We have to break through that. So I tell folks we don't have to match dollar for dollar, but what we have to do is raise enough to let people know that this is exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to keep you from the polls. I always tell people I think democracy and our community and society is better served the more people that are engaged in it and the more people that are voting. And so that's our goal right now is to just engage people, educate them, and then get them to the polls so that they can voice their vote.
I guess I have one last question. Has the idea that at the Republican convention 2 weeks ago, they were holding signs, mass deportation now, right? Has that broken through at all? Is that, because there's a difference between Trump's historic kind of anti-immigrant xenophobic language and the just raw, again, I mean, Trump has like ripped the Band-Aid off all this stuff and it's just going for it because the impact on rural communities, agricultural communities, your community, I mean, there's an argument that communities like yours, right, and the ag businesses and the businesses in your district would be more affected by the Trump border and immigration policies than virtually anywhere in the country. I mean, is there an awareness of this in the business community and when you are speaking to in Hispanic and Latino households?
Yeah, no, this is a heavily Latino district. It's definitely the more they continue to talk about the border and immigration and mass deportation, which means detention centers. When Trump was talking about detention centers, I was like, people, it brings those flashbacks of when they were tearing kids away from parents, right, and putting them in cages. Like nobody wants to return to that. And that's exactly what they were talking about at the Republican convention with the signs that say mass deportation. Now we're going to see more of it. I think as people start realizing that more, and the more we start educating people to be like, listen to what they're actually saying on that side. Like, what type of future do you want? And, there's a really stark difference between the candidates, stark difference between the parties. And so it's incumbent upon us to actually go out and educate and remind people that this is exactly what they're doing. So yeah, no, it's definitely starting to resonate but we just got to get out there and let people know, like, look, this is the difference. Do you want people to be put in these detention centers and kids ripped apart from their parents, or do you want a society where we actually all grow together?
Listen, in a time when many businesses are struggling to find workers, this would create a massive worker shortage. It would be devastating for many of the agricultural businesses in your district. It would be devastating for the American.
We'll have crops and fruits, we'll have crops and everything like rot out in the fields because they can't find workers.
I mean, as you know, some of the most pro-immigration reform and pro-immigrant people in America tend to be agriculturally oriented Republicans, right? Historically. And anyway, I do think there's an opportunity. I think there's an opportunity there, even though I appreciate what you're saying about how there are, for many voters who are disinterested in national politics, there are just a handful of things that matter. But I think the aggression of this, right, issue around mass deportation, how central it is in Trump's agenda at the convention, it was the number 2 issue, right? And it wasn't number 15, it was number 2. And they've never made mass deportation and this kind of xenophobic anti-immigrant policy so central. It's always been on the periphery before. Right now, it's really at the center of everything that Trump is doing. And I think it gives you, in parts of your district, opportunities to communicate just what it would mean, right, for the future of your district and the people there, and the ability for companies to hire workers and have good lives. I mean, he's taking an enormous risk here, and I think we need to make him pay the price for it when it's appropriate in the right way, and but anyway, listen, Rudy, thank you. We're really proud to be on your team. It's great to get the report. We're doing now, we just launched this week, we're starting a weekly phone bank and postcarding effort from the Hopium community. We're starting with Janelle Bynum, who's your neighbor to the north in Oregon. We'll be coming to you soon. I don't know which date it is, but we're going to not just be sending you money in the next few months, but we're going to be making calls and postcarding. And we encourage everybody who's watching, to make sure that you are, as Rudy said, I mean, we all want to make sure that we left it all on the playing field in this election. And through the Hopium community, you're getting a lot of choices of ways you can engage, ways you can give money, ways you can volunteer. Just pick 2 or 3, whatever it is, and let's just go get this thing. Let's go win this thing together. Rudy, good luck. Thank you so much. Thanks for the great report.
Thank you to the whole Hopium community. You guys have been fantastic. Let's see this all the way through for all these races.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Keep fighting hard.